Welcome back to Law and Crime Daily. We're moving now to Marion County, Florida. On Tuesday, authorities announced an arrest in the fatal shooting of a woman during a neighbor dispute. Police were already responding to a trespassing call at an apartment complex on Friday when a shooting was reported at the same location. Authorities found 35-year-old Ajike Owens in front of the suspect's apartment with a gunshot wound. She was taken to a hospital and pronounced dead. The suspect has been identified as 58-year-old Susan Lorincz. Investigators believe that she got mad at her Owens' children who played in a field close to her property. Evidence allegedly shows the suspect confronting the children and even throwing things at them. The children told their mother and she went to confront Lorincz. That's when police believe Lorincz shot one bullet through her front door, striking Owens in the upper chest, while two of her children stood beside her. Lorincz told investigators she acted in self-defense, claiming that Owens tried to break down her door. She also accused Owens of attacking her in the past. Lorincz faces charges of manslaughter, negligence, assault, and battery. Her first court appearance is scheduled for Thursday morning. Many people were wondering why it took authorities 4 days to make an arrest, despite surveillance cameras covering most of the complex. The police department released a video late Tuesday explaining why.
Sometimes when we do these investigations of cases of this level, rushing in to make an arrest is not the right thing to do sometimes. In fact, it could probably cause complications or cause errors, because we want to ensure that what we present, that justice is served all the way through the courts and that the individual gets what they deserve. And that's one of the things. My detectives cannot complete an investigation without getting all sides of a story. And that night, all we had was one person's story, and that was the shooter's story. But Miss Owens' story had to be told through evidence and the eyes of witnesses who were there. I told you that we want nothing more than justice, and this can only be accomplished by maintaining the integrity of the case and leaving no stone unturned.
Josh, the sheriff said that Florida's stand your ground law doesn't apply here, so could it still be considered by the court system as charges move forward?
Well, it's going to be considered in her case in the way that she defends herself and just helping jurors to understand what she was experiencing that day. And I mean, don't get me wrong. I think this is an incredibly difficult case for the defense, and I think they have a real uphill battle. But if they're going to mount any defense whatsoever, they're going to have to explain to jurors what took place in that moment. What was it about the immediacy, the threat that she felt that she was experiencing in that moment that she felt that she had to use deadly force? The prosecution, on the other hand, is going to concentrate on the history between these people, on this ongoing feud, on how this wasn't about a moment. This was about a boiling anger and resentment growing inside of her, and that's what led her to make this decision that day. And therefore, it is not self-defense. And you know, Florida has these laws that are pretty strongly in favor of self-defense, but shooting through a door seems like a really difficult argument to me.
Yeah, the arguments you're saying the defense has to make, it almost sounds like the defendant has to testify. Well, we'll wait for that. Terry, what is your opinion of the criminal charges brought against the shooter? Do you think she should also be charged with murder?
Absolutely, I do, because if you think about it, this wasn't manslaughter. I think they have charges for first-degree murder, actually, because for Florida, all you have to do is show that it's premeditated. Now, many people do think premeditated means it has to be planned out weeks ahead, months ahead. No, premeditated can be at that moment she decided, I'm going to kill the person at my door. And she had no reason to do that. She didn't really see a threat. I mean, it's a mother and a child, so. And I also think second degree, which is a depraved mind. So, you know, she had a reckless disregard for any life. So I definitely think they could have put murder charges, and I think they could have proven murder charges.
Yeah, what you're saying, Terry, makes me have a question of when did she decide to get the gun? I think that's going to be a big point to see what level of premeditation she had. Well, when we come back, after just a few hours of deliberation, there's a verdict in the trial of a former NFL player. His team's reaction from outside the courthouse is next. We're finishing today's show with another update out of Florida. A verdict came in Wednesday afternoon in the murder trial of former professional football player Travis Rudolph. It all started when Rudolph got into a fight with his now ex-girlfriend. She texted her brother to confront Rudolph with his friends. After the group of men showed up to Rudolph's home, a brawl broke out. Rudolph eventually shot and killed 21-year-old Sebastian Jean-Jacques, and prosecutors charged him with premeditated murder. The state argued that the men were retreating during the gunfire, but Rudolph maintained that his actions were in self-defense, and several of his family members agreed during their testimony. Here's what the jury decided in less than 4 hours.
State of Florida versus Travis Rudolph. Defendant. Verdict. We, the jury, find as follows. As to count 1, we find the defendant not guilty. As to count 2, we find the defendant not guilty. As to count 3, we find the defendant not guilty. As to count 4, we find the defendant not guilty. So say we all, the 7th day of June, 2023, in West Palm Beach County, Florida.
Shortly after the verdict, Travis Rudolph and his attorney spoke to reporters about the case. Here's what they had to say.
What does this verdict mean to you?
It means everything, man. I finally got my freedom back and I can get back to my life, man. I just want to thank the jurors, thank the court, thank everyone that was involved in this, man, because it means a lot for the support with everyone.
What do you think of the fact that they came back with a verdict in just, 3 or 4 hours?
I mean, I just felt like it was right. You know what I'm saying? I knew from all along, you know what I'm saying, that I did what I had to do to protect me and my brother's life.
Well, you know, life, we're all human. We all make mistakes. I was tough on the lead officer. It's nothing personal. She really did arrest this man without the right information. And we hope it's a learning experience. That's what life's about. And hopefully she gets her cases done differently next time and she learns some from this and the sheriff learns from this. Because there's many mistakes made. And if those mistakes weren't made and this case was done properly, we may not be here. But we are here. So let's take this as a learning experience. And we have no hard feelings towards anyone. And we wish everyone the best. And everyone lost in this case. No matter what the verdict is, we're all losers as a community. But we're happy that the truth came out.
How has Travis lost in this case?
He lost 2 years of his life. 2 years of playing football, 2 years of roaming free, 2 years of hugging his family, 2 years of having a possible life sentence hanging over his head.
Josh, not guilty on all counts. What are your thoughts?
You know, these cases involving self-defense are always so difficult to try to handicap. I mean, to guess how the jurors are going to come out on things, I find to be so extremely difficult, because the cases are supposed to be about an objective standard. It's supposed to be about how would a reasonable person behave under the circumstances, and is the response a reasonable response. Yet jurors can't help themselves. It's just like anyone in making this subjective. They put themselves in the position of the defendant and they ask themselves, what would they do? Now, there was evidence here that the people who were shot at were retreating. That, to me, weighs heavily with the prosecution. But then you have the idea that there was prior threats, the idea that several people at once showed up and he's only one person, that he's in his own home. All of that plays into the mind of the defense. So my thoughts are, you can never really tell going into these cases how jurors are going to view it. But obviously in this case, and quickly enough, that was most surprising, they came back with a verdict saying that, yeah, we do believe that he acted in a justified way under the circumstances.
Terry, I want to highlight this real quick, because for Susan Lorincz, you said they should be premeditated murder. They did it here for Rudolph, similar situation. Seems like you were right, but different cases, I guess. But Terry, do you agree with Rudolph's attorney when he said the prosecution made a mistake, or maybe a flag on the play when it came to this case?
Well, I definitely think the prosecution made many mistakes in this case, and you heard the defense attorney say it right there. The investigation was shoddy. The interviews were inadequate. You saw on the body cam that there were no follow-up questions when the police officers were asking about what happened that night. They went to the house. There are 4 of them. They went to talk. Why didn't they say, well, what did you go to talk about? Were you carrying guns? None of that was done. So I do think we could possibly see in the future maybe claims for false arrests, maybe claims for malicious prosecution. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, a lot of people are asking why that ex-girlfriend isn't facing charges. Well, we'll see. Well, thank you both, and thank you for joining us here for Law and Crime Daily. We'll see you next time as we discuss justice in America.